We know concussions seem common among professional athletes, but they're now becoming much more common among children. Dr. Michael Sevilla is in this morning with what parents can do to be more aware of the trend and how kids can protect their heads. It is something that we're hearing more and more about, especially in the professional arena. There was the big hullabaloo last year with Ben Roethlisberger and Hines Ward saying, play it out and be tough, and you remember all that. Do they do that on the pee-wee level, on the kid level, where the coaches are going, come on, you know, tough it out, you're fine? Or are you seeing more of the coaches back off and say, hey, wait a minute, let's take a look at this?
I think years ago that they did, even as much as 5 years ago, we were seeing a lot more. But I think just as more of these professional athletes are getting these head injuries and concussions, I think parents and coaches are really being cautious with these kids, especially the younger kids too, when it comes to head injuries.
Now, you're speaking too as a consultant. You were on the field with some teams. What was your position?
I was team physician for a high school boys soccer team, and we saw a lot of head injuries there.
You think about football all the time. You don't necessarily think about soccer as being a big offender, but it is. How so?
Because, well, there's not as much as protection, and I've heard that the Ohio High School Athletic Association is going to be maybe doing some head protection for soccer players. I heard that's coming down the line. So not so much boys, but girls too, because they've seen that girls are more prone to head injuries than boys.
Right, and that's what we were talking about earlier. The statistics are a little surprising because you do see many more girls in a lot of instances than what you might expect.
That's right, that's right. And also in the study that was announced yesterday, kids from age 13 in the last 10 years, their number of concussions have doubled that presented to the ER, and in the high school students, it's even more than double that. So I think a lot of that is recognition of the symptoms and getting kids checked out sooner. Right,
now let's talk about the symptoms. What does a parent need to watch for? If, like, say your kid got into a little bit of a scrape or so, you know, on the football field in the afternoon. How long do you have to be monitoring what he's doing and what's going on?
Most people think about, well, if they lose consciousness, if they pass out, then that's a main symptom, but not necessarily. They can have a little bit of confusion, headache, nausea, stumbling around. People can think, oh, you just bonked your head, but sometimes that can be, a major symptoms of concussion, and those symptoms can last up to 7 to 10 days after when it starts.
Okay, and then how long do you pull them out of the game? How long before they can start practicing again and doing all that?
Well, there's some regulations now that say that when that happens, that kid cannot participate, and that they cannot even come back to practice or games until cleared by a physician or health professional.
And you've been in that position, I'm sure, where the parents coming to you with their child and saying, look, game's this Friday. Like, so it's up to the doctor. How do you know if it's okay for them to go back on the field? How do you tell?
Well, there's some tests that you can do in the office. You know, there's some motor skills, there's some memory skills, there's some simple things that you can do in the office and say, hey, especially if you have your primary care physician that knows the kid.
Right, it helps when you have a primary care.
And if they're a little bit off, then the doctor may say, oh, maybe sit out another week. I know it's a big game, but have to worry about your health.
Right, all right, thanks so much for being here this morning. Lots of good advice.
Thanks.